Hey, hi, hello, how's it going? I'm Christenareckless and welcome back to my channel. Today we are not going to be doing the Am I the Asshole stories. Instead, we are going to be doing the Am I Overreacting stories. I don't think I've done too many of these, if ever. I'm having a hard time remembering at the moment, but I do have some doozies for us today. So buckle up, Buttercup. Here we go. Am I overreacting for secretly planning to leave my boyfriend after he made me prove I wasn't ignoring him? Sounds like you have a controlling boyfriend right off the bat. I would automatically go with no, you are not overreacting, but I don't have all of the context, so let's dive into that. I'm 27 female and my boyfriend, Adam, is 29 male. We've been together for almost 3 years and living together for 1. Okay, alright. For most of our relationship, Adam has been very affectionate and attentive. When things are good, they are genuinely amazing. He remembers little details, plans thoughtful dates, and tells me I'm the only person who has ever made him feel understood. That's sweet. Where's the but? But, I knew it was coming. Whenever he feels rejected, even over something small, he becomes a completely different person. That can be dangerous. I don't like where this is going. OP, are you safe? The recurring issue is that he thinks I ignore him on purpose. For example, if I don't respond while I'm working, but he sees that I was recently active on WhatsApp, he'll send messages like, "Clearly you have time for everyone except me." Or, "Don't worry, I understand where I stand now." That's manipulative as fuck. Does he realize that you have the right to speak to other people? And that he doesn't need to take up every second of your day? Does he understand that? It's important to me that he understands that. When I explained that I opened the app to check a work message, replied to my sister quickly, or simply didn't have the emotional capacity for a conversation at that moment, he says I'm making excuses. Oh boy. The conversation then turns into hours of me trying to prove that I care about him. He'll say things like, "If you loved me, reassuring me wouldn't feel like a chore." Or, "You always make me feel crazy for having feelings." Or, "Maybe I should disappear so you can finally be happy." Therapy. This man needs fucking therapy. Because he will cause other people to need therapy. Are you in therapy, OP? You might need to be after this. Sometimes he threatens to end the relationship, but when I accept that he wants to break up, he becomes furious and says I gave up on him too easily. What does he want? What does he want from you? What? I've started becoming extremely anxious whenever I see a message from him during work. Leave him. Leave him. Leave him! Before opening it, I wonder whether he's upset, whether I've accidentally done something wrong, and whether my entire evening is about to become a 3-hour argument. That is emotional abuse. You can't tell me it's not. The incident that finally pushed me over the edge happened last week. I went to my friend's birthday dinner. Adam was invited, but he said he didn't want to come because he didn't feel welcome around my friends. No one has ever excluded him, but he says they don't make enough effort to involve him. Sounds like a fucking baby to me. Man-child. Is it a man-child? Does he wear diapers too? At the restaurant, my phone was in my bag. About 45 minutes into dinner, I checked it and it saw 17 messages and 4 missed calls. In 45 minutes? The messages started normally. Hope you're having fun. Then, you haven't even checked on me. I'm sorry, are you a baby? Can you not be alone by yourself for 45 minutes? Is that too hard? Can you feed yourself? Then, I guess I know what matters more. And the final message said, "Come home tonight or don't come home at all." Were you planning on not going home? That's such a weird thing to say. I went outside and called him. He was crying and said that he'd been having a panic attack because I hadn't answered. I apologized for not checking my phone, but I also told him that threatening to kick me out was not acceptable. Yeah. He said I was focusing on his wording instead of the pain that caused it. What? This is a grown man. This is a grown man, by the way. I ended up leaving the dinner early because of course you did. When I got home, he was sitting calmly on the sofa. He asked to see my phone because he wanted proof that I hadn't been deliberately ignoring him while messaging other people. I said no. He responded, "Then I have my answer." I got angry and told him I was tired of constantly being treated like I was guilty of something. He started crying again and said I was emotionally abandoning him when he needed reassurance. Eventually, I gave him my phone. He went through my messages, found nothing, and then said, "See? That wasn't so difficult. We could have avoided this entire fight if you had just reassured me from the beginning. That sentence made something click in my head. He threatened my housing, ruined my friend's birthday dinner, demanded access to my private messages, and somehow I ended the night apologizing to him. There you go, OP. The next morning, he was extremely loving. He made breakfast, bought flowers, and said he was sorry for getting emotional. He also said we both needed to work on things because my defensiveness makes his anxiety worse. I didn't argue. Instead, while he was at work, I contacted my sister and asked whether I could stay with her temporarily. I've started quietly gathering my important documents and moving a few sentimental items to her apartment. I haven't told Adam, and you shouldn't, because he seems like he could be dangerous when he's upset. Part of me feels terrified and guilty. He has never hit me or physically stopped me from leaving. That doesn't mean he will continue to keep his hands to himself. You know what I mean? He says his reactions come from past trauma and abandonment issues. Then go to therapy! What do you fucking mean? Why are you putting that on your partner, Adam? He also tells me that leaving without giving him another chance would prove that everyone eventually abandons him. Wow. What a narcissist. I know secretly planning to leave sounds dishonest. I also know he'll be devastated when he realizes what I've done. But I'm scared that if I tell him in advance, I end up spending hours comforting him, doubting myself, and agreeing to stay. Am I overreacting by planning to leave while he's thinking everything's fine? Should I insist on couples therapy first? Or is this already beyond the point where therapy would help? He needs therapy. You probably need therapy because of what he has done to you. Do not go to couples therapy. There is nothing in that relationship that you have that is worth fighting for. Nothing in that relationship or what he offers you is worth going through what he puts you through. Yeah, therapy is great. Not as a couple, individually for sure. You for healing and him for making sure he doesn't hurt anybody else. Update. Oh, we have an update. Oh, I left him. That makes me so happy. Thank you to everyone who commented and shared their experiences. Reading your replies really helped me realize how much I had normalized. I moved my important belongings to my sister's place while he was at work and ended the relationship once I was safe. Ooh, that's good. I told him my decision was final and I wouldn't need him alone. He switched between apologizing, blaming me, and accusing others of influencing me. For the first time, I didn't try to calm him down. I blocked him. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm still sad and questioning myself, but I already feel more peaceful. I slept through the night and went to work without feeling anxious every time my phone buzzed. I'm staying with my sister, changing my passwords, and looking into therapy. Thank you for helping me see that leaving quietly wasn't cruel. I'm out. That is what we call a happy ending. I love that. Yes, please. Good job, OP. I'm sure that was tough, and you will need therapy, but it will be worth it. And you'll be happy. I promise. It was a doozy, wasn't it? You are not overreacting. You were never overreacting, honey. You were underreacting for a long time, actually. All right, story number 2. Let's see if this will, calm my blood pressure down. Let it settle out a little bit. No promises, though, because that first one had me panicking for your safety, OP. We're fine. You're fine. You're safe. We're moving on to the second OP. So here we go. Am I overreacting for refusing to let my husband name our daughter after his best friend? I'm gonna need more context. I, 29 female, gave birth to our daughter 3 days ago. Why are you guys on Reddit so soon after you have children? Because you need help. Actually, you know what? That makes sense. Never mind. And somehow we're still arguing about her name. I'm writing this while she's asleep because I can't sleep anyway, and I honestly don't even know if I'm overreacting anymore. My husband, 31 male, has wanted to name her Claire for basically my entire pregnancy. He told me it was the name of one of his closest friends who died a few years before we met. I said no almost immediately. Not because I dislike the name, I actually think it's pretty, but because I wasn't comfortable naming our first child after somebody I'd never met or even heard of until I got pregnant. That makes sense. And you're also growing the baby. I think you should get a say as well. I figured he'd be disappointed. We'd throw around a bunch of other names, and eventually we'd find one that we both liked. That never happened. Every few weeks, he'd bring up Claire again, sometimes while we were already talking about names and sometimes completely out of nowhere. By the end of my pregnancy, I was honestly tired of having the same conversation over and over. The thing that's bothering me now isn't even the name. We've been together for over 5 years, married for 2, and somehow I've never heard of this woman's name until I was pregnant. I've met his parents, his brothers, his college friends, people he's known forever, and nobody has ever mentioned a Claire. That's suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Too late. That's suspicious. I even asked one of his college friends at our baby shower because I thought maybe I'd somehow forgotten hearing about her, and he just looked confused and said he didn't know who I was talking about. Then after our daughter was born, while we were filling out the paperwork, my husband asked one last time if I'd reconsider. I said no, and that's when he told me he'd always imagined naming his daughter after her. I asked why he'd never told me that before, and he just shrugged and said he didn't think it mattered. It does matter if you're trying to name your child after somebody, it matters. We've argued about it twice since we've got home. He keeps saying I'm making this into something it isn't, but I just don't know how somebody can matter enough that you can picture naming your future daughter after them, yet somehow they never come up in 5 years together. Great point, OP. My mom thinks I should let him have the name because it's obviously meant something to him for a long time. My sister thinks that's exactly why I shouldn't. Maybe I'm just exhausted because I've barely slept since I gave birth, but I'm so tired of feeling like I'm missing a part of the story. It's gotten to the point where I'm thinking about calling his mom and asking who Claire was because I don't know what else to do. It feels completely out of line, but so does finding out about somebody this important while I'm filling out our daughter's birth certificate. Would I be overreacting if I called her? No, something's up here. Something is up and he's not telling you the whole truth. And if he's going to lie about the origin of the name that he wants for your daughter, what else is he lying about? I do see we have an update here, but I am suspicious that this might not turn into a happy ending. I wasn't expecting to update this 2 days later, but a lot happened really fast. First, thanks to everyone who commented. A bunch of you told me to talk to my mother-in-law because she'd probably know the answer. I went back and forth on it for a while because it felt weird to go around my husband like that, but eventually I did call her. She asked if I wanted to meet for coffee the next morning, so I did. I honestly thought I was going to leave feeling embarrassed. I figured she'd tell me Claire really was just a close friend, and I'd realize I'd let myself get carried away because I'm exhausted and emotional and just had a baby, which would be understandable. The first thing that she asked me was what my husband had already told me about Claire. I said that she'd been his best friend and he wanted to name our daughter after her. She just kind of looked at me for a second, and then she told me they'd been engaged. Why the fuck? Why on God's green earth would you name your daughter that you had with your wife after your ex-fiance? Isn't that fucking weird? Isn't that a little weird to you? Just a little? Little weird? None of my exes better be doing that. Are you kidding me? The more we talked, the more names came up. His parents knew, his brother knew, and one of his old roommates knew because they'd lived together at the time. Funny enough, it was the same friend who I'd asked at our baby shower. No one had told me anything, so the friend's a liar too. That's great. Birds of a feather flock together, apparently. Apparently, most people just knew he had been dating someone who got sick. His mom told me that Claire was diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer not long after they started dating. I really wish you would have added that in there sooner, OP. Because now I feel a little bit bad. Things moved fast after that because they knew she probably didn't have years together, so he proposed. She died not long after. She also told me she'd assumed I'd known about all of this for years. When we got engaged, she thought he'd already told me. Same thing when we got married. Same thing when I got pregnant. I call bullshit, but maybe I'm just looking to point fingers. I drove home after that and just waited for him to get back from work because there wasn't any chance I was going to act like everything was normal. I confronted him that night and it went awful. Truly, he acted like an entirely different person. At first, he wanted to know why I'd gone to his mom. Then it became that I had no right to dig into his past. Then it became that Claire had nothing to do with our marriage. Then it was that I'd betrayed his trust by involving his family. It just kept changing. I'd answer one thing and we'd somehow end up arguing about something else. I asked him when he planned on telling me that he'd been engaged because we'd already been together for over 5 years, married for 2, and now we had a daughter. He said he always meant to tell me, but he didn't. He never fucking told me, and I'm so angry at how selfish it was. Yeah, it was fucking selfish. 100%. He was gonna tell you, he meant to tell you, but he never did, and that says a lot more than whatever intention he had. I packed a bag that night and went to my sister's house with the baby. Before people assume we're getting divorced, that's not why I left. I still love this man, and we have a child together. I couldn't imagine raising her split in 2 households. I left because we were both angry, and I could tell that the argument wasn't going anywhere. My sister's been helping with the baby. Yesterday she realized I hadn't eaten since breakfast and practically shoved a sandwich into my hands because I had completely forgotten. This whole thing has been exhausting and I haven't slept at all. A few people asked about the birth certificate. The hospital told us that we had time to finish the paperwork after we left, so we weren't forced to pick a name before going home. That is common. We obviously aren't going to leave it forever, but right now neither of us are in any position to make that decision. My sister started calling her Ellie because she said she felt weird saying the baby all the time. And somewhere over the last day, I've started doing it too. I don't know if that's what's going to end up being her name, but it's in the working filler while the shitstorm is going on. My husband has been calling and texting since I left. He wants to see our daughter, and we've made that happen because none of this has anything to do with her. Whatever is going on between us, she's still his daughter and he loves her. I don't want people getting the idea that I'm trying to keep her away from him, because I'm not. I've seen a lot of comments saying the real issue is that he loves someone before me. It really isn't. If he had told me about Claire years ago, I don't think we'd be here. I would have felt awful for him. I probably would have cried hearing what happened, but I wouldn't have held it against him. What really hurts is the lies and manipulation. But then again, can you even call it lying? It's not like I ever asked him, oh, were you married before? Honey, there's something called lying by commission, where you actually say the lie, and there's something called lying by omission, where you leave something out purposefully to manipulate the situation in a dishonest manner. So, yes, it's lying, in case you were confused. Because who the hell asks that? Instead, I found out because he wanted our daughter to have her name, and then I found out from his mother that she'd been his fiancée. That's the part I can't look past. I mean, I understand. I looked back on my other post, and it feels like it was written by someone else. 2 days ago, I thought we were arguing about a name. God, I was so naive. I suppose question has turned into, would I be overreacting to leave him over this? I'm certainly mad, but I don't think we're to that point yet, and I don't really want that for my baby either. Anyway, that's where things are. Thank you all so much for the support. This has really been a great place to be able to vent and get advice. A very special thanks to all of those who helped me realize I wasn't crazy. I think that the best course of action for all of this is couples counseling. If you are certain that you still love this man, even though he betrayed you, then go for it. Go for couples therapy. Try and make this family work. But if you have it in the back of your mind that because he was dishonest about this and he lied by omission for so long, that he might be doing it about other things that aren't so trivial, so to speak, it's probably best for you to raise your daughter in 2 separate, healthy, happy homes than one unified but awful and unhappy home. Those are my thoughts. Those were 2 pretty long stories, so I think we're going to call it here. If you have anything else to say, add, or correct me on in my opinions regarding these stories, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I do like reading them, even when you disagree with me. And if you have any other interesting stories that you want to share with me, so to potentially get onto my YouTube channel, feel free to email me at christenareckless@gmail.com. And until next time, do me a favor and stay reckless. Bye.